It is an ongoing investigation. It's a fluid investigation, but I'm happy to say that it's moving very rapidly and very efficiently. This morning, we will open it up with our mayor, the Honorable Lee Leffingwell. The mayor will then be followed by Chief Harry Evans of the Austin Police Department. He's a chief of staff. Chief Evans will then be followed by the chief of staff of the EMS here in Travis County, Chief James Shamard, who will then be followed by Mr. Roland Swenson from South by Southwest, and then I will come back up and give an investigative update on where we're at in terms of the investigation and where we go from here. So with that, I'd like to call to the podium the Honorable Lee Leffingwell, Mayor of Austin, Texas.
Thank you, Chief. I want to be very brief. First, I want to express my deepest sympathy and condolences to those who were injured or lost their lives last night in this very tragic accident. There's no way to express the deepness of our sympathy and condolences for these folks. It is truly a tragic event. At the same time, I want to acknowledge the excellent performance of our first responders who performed in a way that perhaps saved many lives. We'll know more about that later on today. There were about 25 people involved. The incident was cleared from the streets in less than 15 minutes, and I think that speaks to that excellent performance. Finally, I do want to say that South by Southwest is a long-time event, 27 years. This is the first time in those 27 years that we've had an incident of this kind, and we will, of course, as we always do, continually evaluate all of our events to make sure they're as safe as they can possibly be. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our first responder chiefs to talk more about the details, and first will be Chief Acevedo.
Okay, Mayor, thank you. I want to start with the fire department and Chief Mayor, then I'll go last. Go ahead, Chief Evans.
Thank you, Chief. My name is Harry Evans. I'm the Chief of Staff, Austin Fire Department, and just like the mayor said, our condolences out to all the people that were affected by this senseless tragedy. As you know, about 12:30 this morning, we were notified that there was an automobile pedestrian collision, and it turned out to be much more than that. We had units on the scene within minutes. We had 24 firefighters and 2 command elements on scene, and just as the mayor said, the trauma patients were removed in 15 minutes, the extreme patients, and the rest of the patients were gone from the scene within 47 minutes. It's an example of collaboration, coordination, and a lot of training between fire, police, and EMS. So those are all the comments I have right now. Unless you have further questions, but I'll turn it over to Chief Shamar. Absolutely. First name's Harry, H-A-R-R-Y, last name Evans, E-V-A-N-S, Chief of Staff, Austin Fire.
See, we were told that you guys had actually trained for a scenario like this just a week prior.
We actually have ongoing training for mass casualty events like this.
Thank you. My name is James Shamard. I'm the Chief of Staff for the Austin Travis County Emergency Medical Services. We received the first notification at about 12:32 this morning of the reported auto pedestrian. The incident was spread out over about 3 blocks right here in this particular area. We had medical personnel and command staff that was on the scene almost immediately because we have Polaris-type patient care vehicles, motorcycles, bicycles, and commanders actually throughout the South by Southwest event. So we were here very, very quickly with that first wave of command and medical personnel. Shortly after, we brought in additional ambulances. There was 6 additional ambulances that arrived on the scene to take care of what initially was 25 patients. You mentioned about the training. We train for the MCI type events or the mass casualty type events. We have pre-plans for every big event like this, and when the crews show up in midday for South by Southwest, for example, we not only review the plan on how we're going to manage the typical patients, but we review how we're going to handle a mass casualty situation like this should it occur. When a big event happens like this, we shift out of the normal operating mode from a couple of medics taking care of a patient, and we go into a triage mode and we tag everybody with a MCI tag, and they fall into one of three categories, red being the most significant of a patient that's going to be transported, yellow is a medium category, and green is minimal injuries, and the black category means they're expectant or they're already deceased on the scene. As I mentioned, we had a total of 25 patients on the scene, and of those, 23 of them fell into either red, yellow, or green category, and 2 were black. 2 were cardiac arrest when we arrived, and they were pronounced dead on the scene. We transported a total of 23 patients to 3 of our local hospitals, and the breakdown on that is 5 patients were very critical patients. We tagged them as red and transported them to University Medical Center Brackenridge right here behind me, and we were very fortunate to have that level 1 trauma center here and have it so close. We transported a total of 5 yellow category patients. 4 of those went to St. David's Hospital, which is just about a mile or so behind me past Brackenridge, and 1 went to South Austin Medical Center on Ben White Boulevard. We had 13 patients that were tagged green, which means they did suffer some injuries. We did transport them to the hospital, but they were not life-threatening. All of our critical patients, our red category patients, were off the scene within 15 minutes from the time we received the first call. And you can imagine what it was like out here with all the pedestrians and all the excitement from the event. And I can't say enough about the work that the Austin Police Department, the Austin Fire Department, our men and women of Austin Travis County EMS did, coming in and sorting through that event and figuring out who was injured and who was not injured, making sense of it, and then getting those most critical patients off the scene in 15 minutes. Our next category, our yellow category patients, were off the scene in 21 minutes, and I believe everybody was off the scene in around 50 minutes. So they did just a fantastic job triaging, assessing, and getting those patients off the scene. We had 28 medics and commanders on the scene, and as I mentioned, that included things like these special response units, these Polarises that can move around in the congested areas, motorcycles, bicycles, and then, of course, our ambulances and our command contingency. The latest information we have from the hospital networks about the patients is as follows. We have 2 patients that they categorized as being still in very critical condition. We have 3 that are receiving treatment, and they may be in surgery or they're serious, but not as serious as the top 2. So it's really a total of 5 that are very serious. We had 3 that are still hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries, and a total of 15 that was transported and then released from the hospital as of now. So that's the overview of, from an EMS standpoint of what we encountered and who we transported, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. James, J-A-M-E-S, last name Shamard, S-H-A-M-A-R-D, with Austin Travis County Emergency Medical Services. Thank you. Correct.
There you go. That's the latest on the tragedy in Austin. Y'all pray for those people. Brother Nick, God bless you. Have a great day.
That's still in the